Hey everybody, it's me, Dr. Miano, and this is World of Antiquity, and we're here live. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Let me know in the chat that I'm coming through all right, because I'm using a new app. You're going with StreamYard now, because I heard it was easier, and I was using OBS before, so StreamYard. You hear me and see me. All right, glad to know it. It's great to be with you here. Haven't had a live stream in a month, so it's good to be talking with you again, because you're going to talk about ancient history, things that happened thousands of years ago. You want to do it live, right? So you don't miss anything. As usual, I'm going to take the first half hour here to just talk with my chat, talk with you all here, and answer any questions you may have, hear what you have to say. I did want to share with you a couple of things I'm reading. I just got this book. Look at this thing. The World of the Oxus Civilization. Yeah, it's got almost 1,000 pages. Yeah, and it's very heavy, dense reading. It's not really something that you would find super exciting, probably, as the average person. But I want to, do something on the Oxus civilization. It's a fascinating civilization. So I don't even know if you've heard of it, but it's pretty cool, and all kinds of new info coming out on that. I've also got a couple of books of woo. My woo library is growing, and what I mean by that is pseudo-historical stuff. So I got 2 books by Stephen Mailer. Have you ever heard of this guy? The Land of Osiris and From Light into Darkness is 2 books here, and they are awful, but so fascinating. And I want to do something on this too in my myth series. I could also do it in my book review series, but I want to talk a little bit about Mailer. He doesn't have a YouTube channel or anything, but he has spawned quite a bit of what you see out there on YouTube. A lot of it originates in these books, so they're pretty interesting too. Yeah, my woo library is going to grow, and because I really don't want to have to buy those books, but I have to, right? If you're going to address the arguments that people make and so forth, you got to get their books. But they do get money for it, Most of them are self-published and all of that, or by a very small press, but very influential in a lot of ways. So, yeah. All right. Well, so if you would like to ask me a question, please do. Hey, World of Antiquity, you should check out me and Dapper Dinosaur debunking Dewhurst's book on giants in NA. NA, what does NA stand for? I'm probably being dumb here. Giants in North America? Is that what it is? Giants in North America? Well, where is the debunking, Vishanti? Where is the debunking going on? Let me know. Hi there, Kai from Berlin. How are you doing? Neolithic Age? Giants in Neolithic Age? Maybe. By the way, this is a great opportunity for all of you to, if you want to see me do a video on something, let me know. I'll see, the chat is preserved, so if you put your suggestions in the chat, I'll see it later. Now, of course, I'm going to do something that I think a lot of people want to see, so the more people, if somebody puts out a great idea and you also think it's a good idea, say so then I know that there's, more than one person that wants me to do it. We enjoy the debunk content. Do you have a link for the BMAC book? Well, you'll have to Google it. I don't have a link on me, but it's called The World of the Oxus Civilization, and it ain't cheap, let me tell you. Longer vids. Well, the short vids that I do, the 1-minuters, they don't make me any money or anything, but they do get me subscribers and people are entertained by them. And then I can put more out a week than I usually do. But yeah, I'm trying to put out 1 longer vid a week. I did one yesterday, right? My Hyperborea one. I don't know if you like that one, everybody. Let me know what you thought of it. Hi from the Netherlands, Theater. Oh, Logan, who's your favorite top debunk you want to do or have done? You mean like somebody that I would like to debunk, Logan? I still haven't done a Graham Hancock video, which I'd like to do, but he's done so much, I don't even know where to start, Really enjoy your historical education. Thank you so much. Loved it. The Hyperborea video, great. I like them all, just greedy. Yes, I know. I wish I could put them out faster. I could put them out faster if once I grow bigger, because then I can start paying people to help me. But I have to do everything myself, you know. Hello there, Ellie from Edinburgh. I really like the Hyperborea vid. Let's see. Your video about the sword was good. Very good. Hi, Dr. Mann. I love your work. Do you think you'll ever examine some Mormon archaeological claims, or that has it already been done? It may have already been done, but I don't see why I couldn't do it too. Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about some of their claims, but I do know. Well, I know a little bit, about lost tribes of Israel coming to America, things like that. But there's other stuff too, I'm sure. Graham Hancock video would be amazing. Yes. I've done Brian Forrester. I've done Randall Carlson. I need to do Graham Hancock, right? We got a super chat here from Michael. Hi, Michael. Love the Hyperborea video. Still no Conan. Very sad. I didn't include Conan. Maybe I'll do the Sumerians at some time. Yes. Thanks for everything. I'm going into college for archaeology. Love your content. Awesome. Have you ever been to a creationist museum? No, not yet. That would be fun too. Crossover with other history channels. I have done a few collabs already. Do I have any in the pipeline? Well, Irena from Ancient Sites wants to do something with me. Also, Luke from Polymathy I've been promising him that I'd do a video with him on, by the way, the possible discoveries of America before Columbus and before the Vikings. So that might be a fun topic. Let's see. I would be interested in seeing you debunk Graham. Yeah, Graham stuff all revolves around the downfall of ancient high civilization. Yes. Maybe Boval. Yes, maybe Boval. That might be a good one too. What about the Templar Knights in Solomon's Temple? Yes, we could do some the lost city. What is it? The lost mines of Solomon, something like that. Love you. Dying for Miniminuteman. I am too, but we have to wait a few more minutes. I loved Stefan Milo's Hancock video. I did too, yes. Greetings from Iowa, King here for Miniminuteman, but I love this content. Glad to have discovered another interesting creator in the genre. Can't wait for the discussion. All right, yes. Yeah, I and Miniminuteman do some similar things, so I thought he'd be perfect to bring on. Do you have any thoughts on Neoplatonism? Well, yes, but I don't know exactly what you want me to say about it. It was an interesting movement. Plotinus, right? Yes, the Enneads, good stuff. Well, is it good stuff? It's out there. You have so far talked about lacking measurements of supposed super accurately things in Egypt. Will you someday take your own measurements? Well, when I go to Egypt, which I am planning on doing, I would love to be able to take some measurements. The problem with taking measurements is a regular measurement doesn't help, right? If you want to have to know if it's more precise than the Egyptians could have done, it has to not be visible to the human eye, right? It has to be a measurement that isn't visible to the human eye. And so you need special measuring tools. But not only do you need special measuring tools, you need even, because it's so sensitive, the measuring systems, that you even need the correct temperature, right? I don't even know how possible it would be. And also it would be very time consuming because you don't want to just measure one, because that's what people do. They go in there with a square or whatever, and they measure one side or they measure one corner, and that's it. And then they're like, see, look at it's amazing. But they don't measure the whole object. They don't take all the measurements. Yeah, and then if you want to, if you're going to do the sarcophagi in the Serapeum, what you're going to do one, you got to do all of them. You're a bunch of them if you want to get a good idea, right? What do you think of the Giraffe civilization? Yes, that's it's prehistoric. It's kind of a little bit before my time, but in Iran, I know you're talking about great stuff. Absolutely. Have you listened to the podcast? Probably not Aliens. Tristan from Step Back History. I have not yet listened to that podcast. No, but I probably should check it out, huh? It sounds like right up my alley. Which part of ancient history do you find the most interesting? Ooh, I always flip around on that, but I love the ancient Mesopotamian stuff, right? I love the Middle East, the Near East, in the period, say between maybe 3000 BCE and 500 BCE, like in that period there. I love that. Trey the Explainer is also worthy. You know what? I did a collab with Trey the Explainer, Michael. It's on his channel. You should go check it out. And it's on, what do we do it on again? It was on, gee, I'm drawing a blank. What do we do it on? Anyway, it's on his channel. It's one of his last 5 videos. You'll see it. I'm so done. How could I not remember? No one has ever debunked Brian Forster. I recognize you, Grim. You were giving me a hard time in the comments recently. I did 2 videos on Brian Forster. I don't know if you've seen them, but I think you are rooting for his team, so I'm not sure how open-minded you're going to be on that. Skip going to Egypt, full of scams and unfriendly government. I know, but you know what I'm sick of hearing, Farzad? Well, you've never been to Egypt, so how would you know? I get that a lot. Obviously, you don't. If you have people who have gone and who have written reports and done the science and they're publishing it for you, you can find out everything you need to know. But I still would love to experience it. Vishanti, thank you so much for the super chat. What is best in life? To crush pseudo-history, see them driven from YouTube, and hear the lamentations of their grifters. Hyperborean proverb. I love it. Love it. So funny. Let's see. So many things coming in. When they say the origin of civilization, what do they mean by civilization? Well, Ken, usually when archaeologists say that, other people I can't speak for, okay? But when historians and archaeologists say that, they mean the rise of cities. That's kind of why I did that recent video on the first cities, because people get confused and they say, well, wait a minute, archaeologists say that civilization didn't begin until 6,000 years ago, and that's true because we're talking about the rise of cities, right? But then they're like, well, what about Göbekli Tepe and all that? Archaeologists believe that settlements started far earlier than that, right? They acknowledge that they've actually just dug them up. Yes, people had settlements, great ones, at that time, but they don't count as civilization, at least not in a technical sense, because of the confusion about the word, and people use it so differently in common parlance. Archaeologists tend to avoid the word now, but it's become so part of our vocabulary, and everyone's saying, oh, they said civilization is only 6,000 years old, but that's what they mean. They mean cities. Where do you think the Sumerian language originated, and where the people might have come from originally? Nobody knows. You hear all these theories about, the Sumerians, they were originally from India, or they were originally from here or there, but it's a language isolate. You can trace sometimes the movements of people by their language, but because there's no other language related to Sumerian, we don't know who else they would be related to, linguistically, and then maybe be able to figure out where they came from. So we don't know, but there are two kind of theories out there. One is that they were there a long time in southern Mesopotamia, and the other is that they are recent arrivals into southern Mesopotamia just before they started building cities. And I think the latter is usually what people are leaning towards, but where they came from, we don't know. Probably from the east, but it's hard to say. Trey was on It's Probably Not. He was on Probably Not Aliens. I'm gonna have to get on that show. Let's see. Oh, I just lost my spot. I was going. You're coming hard and fast with all of these. Now I forgot where I was. If you haven't personally done the science, you can't know anything about it. Oh, well, I don't think I agree, Dapper Dinosaur. Because then why have scientists? Like, if this is the thing about, we're talking about civilization. Civilization, one of its characteristics is specialization. People specialize in one area and they get really good at it, and they do it for everybody else. So if you have like someone who's like a tool maker, they're a blacksmith, okay, or they're a pottery maker or whatever, they're a stonemason, they're doing it not just for themselves, they're doing it for everybody. And it's the same thing with scientists today, right? Or any other profession, right? You become really good at something so that other people can benefit from your expertise. So if you just say, well, we should all just do our own science or something like that, then what's the point? What's the point of having civilization? You don't even need it. And you can't do everything yourself. So, yeah. Do you plan on seeing the immersive King Tut? I have no plans of that, Cameron, but it sounds really cool. I have I did when I was in England a couple of years ago. They had a King Tut exhibit there at the time, and I didn't have time to even go see that, so I was kind of disappointed. Yeah, I'd love to see an artifact video on the Ishtar Gate. Oh yeah, I haven't thought of that, but the Ishtar Gate could be thought of as an artifact, huh? Sure, Dan. Seeing Egypt is amazing. If nothing else, it's great to actually see the sites within the landscape. Yeah, yeah. Um, let's see. Brian Forster thinks oxidation of hair equals secret alien / giant sesh Nephilim. Does he? The same people that dog you for not going to Egypt also claim to know what good pizza is, yet they've never been to New York. Well, as a New Yorker myself, I'm actually from Western New York originally, Buffalo, but I have to agree with you. What would you love to know that we probably won't ever know? Well, if I know it, I'll probably tell you, Buzz. But I want to know something every day, so it's kind of hard to think of some specific thing. But I guess, oh, I know what you mean. Oh, I get your question now. You're talking about something that we probably could never find archaeologically or historically, right? And that it would be great to know. Ah, I understand your question now. Yeah. Uh, like I'd love to go in a time machine, go back there and look, right? But what specifically would it be great to know? Well, wouldn't it be great to go? I mean, this is kind of just everybody would say this, but wouldn't it be great to go see them build the Great Pyramid? That would be cool. You know, see how they did it. Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. It's in the name, Civilization from Civitas, meaning city. Yes, that's correct. Uh, have you seen a news report that a rare ancient mosque has been excavated in the Bedouin town of Rahat in the southern Negev desert of Israel? I did not see that report yet, Nadim, but it sounds interesting. Um, Now, the time of ancient mosques, so this is like be after the year 600. It's a little bit after my area of speciality, but I'm still interested. Absolutely. Yeah. Um, what did you make of The Dawn of Everything by David Wengrow and David Graeber? I have the book, Ellie. I bought it, and I've read parts of it. It's a huge, huge book. But I'll just say this. I love the idea of questioning the way we categorize things, right? And the way we understand things. And I think they make a decent case that, you know, I mean, this is kind of along the lines of what my video on cities was about what counts as a city, how was society organized in those days, did it really progress along the timeline that we think it did, and they do it in the right way, right? They're not just one of these people, okay? They do it in a scholarly way, and I think it's good to question our assumptions. I think that they stretch some of the evidence a little bit from what I've been able to determine, but I haven't read the whole book yet, and so I'm not going to make a final definitive statement about it yet. Could you please recommend any sources on early Slavic cultures? I'm not real sure of any. I'd have to look it. I'd have to go look it up. I off the top of my head, I couldn't. I can't name any books or anything to go look at. It's something that I need to research more too. So I'm sorry I can't help you with that one. I didn't know the technical meaning of civilization before I watched your video. With the LiDAR discoveries of the ancient... Oh, I just lost my spot again. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, wow, there's a lot of messages that are coming up. Oh, man, wow. Okay, I'm going too slow. Of the ancient cities of Mesoamerica, do you think we will find similar discoveries in the dense rainforests of the DRC, the Congo, or the Amazon? Probably, Michael, probably. All right, I'm going to try to fast forward. Thanks for the $1 super chat, OICU 812. And thank you for... Oh, you did another one. You did two for another one for $10. Go to Egypt, bring that far-out engineer dude with you, and have another real engineer in your crew in the background ready to keep him honest. You'll probably need a sponsor or two or more. Oh, that's an interesting idea. What, you talking about Chris Dunn? Bring him and then somebody else? That would be quite interesting. I was thinking if I go to Egypt, I should ask Robert Schneiker to come with me. Maybe we should bring along Robert Schock too, just to see them go at it. Myth Vision Podcast. Hey, thanks for coming. $5. Very much appreciative of that. I would love to interview with you. Your videos are a breath of fresh air, my friend. Yes. Myth Vision, in case you don't know, everybody, did invite me to come on to his podcast. Now he's guilting me in front of all of you. I told him I was very busy, but I would in future. And I will, Myth Vision. I will. My favorite debunkers getting together is awesome. Thanks, Jeremy. What's the accepted definition of a city compared to a settlement? So a settlement is just when people get together and they're not nomads anymore, right? They're not moving around anymore. They're staying put year-round in one place. But a settlement can be very small. It can just be a group of huts, you know. It could be a small village. It could even be a town. A city is a settlement too, but usually when we say settlement, it's kind of we think of the early stages. So a city is just a very, very, very large settlement, right, with all the trappings that come with it. So settlements come first, you know, and they start out as villages, then move to towns, then cities. Juan more once, $10. Thank you so much for the super chat. No message, just keep on doing what you do. Oh, you know what I forgot I can do I can show the super chats. Sorry, I didn't do that with the earlier ones. I forgot that I can do this on StreamYard. So thank you, Juan. Very much appreciated. Here's another one from Morphalaf. Is it Morphalaf or Morphalaf? Great content. Are you familiar with Ancient History of Arata, Ukraine by Yuri Shilov? No. Are you recommending it? Sounds like you are. Maybe I should check it out. I have not read it. And Melanie. Thank you, Melanie, for the super sticker. Much appreciated. Eric, I decided to learn about history from the first so I could get a good overview of human civilization. Months later, I'm still pre-500 BC. So much fascinating information and things to learn. Absolutely, Eric. You know, so much happened, right, between even the rise of cities and 500 BC, right? So there's a lot. I always used to complain, well, to myself, when I was teaching world history. Well, actually, I still am teaching world history, but I in the old days, I would gripe a little bit more because at almost every university here in America, the cutoff, they do world history part 1 and world history part 2. And they do the same with Western Civ. But they cut it off usually around 1500. Some of them go to 1650 in part 1. Some of them go to 1750. Yeah, we're talking about CE, AD, right? In part 1. And then part 2 is just from there to now. I was like, why are you so biased towards modern history? Why do you need a whole semester to do like 1500 to now? But in part 1, which is what I do, I have to cover 4000 BCE all the way up to 1500 CE. Thousands and thousands of years. Why is that? And then I have to go super fast, and so much happened in that period. But people tend to favor the more recent history. Okay, let's see. Henri, I would recommend reading David King's debunk of the whole Petra theory. Sorry. Haven't read it. And capture the footage of them building the Great Pyramids. Oh, yes, if I go back in time, Blurb, definitely want to bring my phone. What do you think of Brian Forster's elongated skulls analysis? Well, even according to him, if we're talking about the DNA and all that, a lot of the skulls have been verified to be made through the means that mainstream archaeologists say, basically through head binding and things like that, and the DNA checks out. But there are a couple of anomalous ones still. But here's what I'm thinking: like, if you have I'll probably do a video on this. But if you have a group of objects, right, and they're all very similar, and most of them are one thing, are you going to still argue that the small selection is different? Like, why are you saying that this small selection is different from all the other ones? It's kind of like what they do with the pyramids, right? They don't care about any of the pyramids except for the Great Pyramid. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I'm saying? They concentrate completely on the Great Pyramid and not considering all the other pyramids and what our evidence is for their usage, right? They just want to talk about the one. Consider it as part of the group. And I think we should do that the same thing with the elongated skulls. Waiting for my food right now, so I picked the hot dog super chat. Was that one of the earlier ones, Melanie? Did I acknowledge your hot dog super chat? Maybe it's coming up still, or maybe I already mentioned it. I don't recall now. Because of shrinking water levels, Sumerian tablets still in their envelope have been found. Are these new discoveries you're talking about, Logan? Or you're just talking about in the past? Yeah, I mean, that's certainly true. All right, it's already getting to be about time where I'm bring on Miniminuteman, but I don't want to ignore. Oh, wait, I got to acknowledge the super chats first. I got to go through these super chats here. Okay, so what is the next one? The next one is, here it is. Imperius, what are the places to watch in ancient archaeology in the next 10 years? Where is the most exciting work being done, in your opinion? I think in the Americas, with a lot of the LiDAR that we were talking about and everything, I think lots of new things are going to be found there. China seems to be finding things almost every year. Very exciting for Chinese archaeology, because they didn't get started until like the 20th century. So they got to catching up to do. And there's all kinds of stuff to be found there. But I always look at the Near East because that's what I'm super interested in. And so I love it even when they're continuing to find things there, although it has been worked on quite a bit. And even in India, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. I think we're going to be finding some more things there too. Let's see. The next super chat is from Caleb. Thank you very much for a super sticker, Caleb. Much appreciated. Do we have any more here? Yes. Liquid's back. A video on the Sumerians? Perhaps. I kind of need a controversial issue about them to talk about. I mean, I could just do, and here's a video on the Sumerians, but it'd be cool to have something to argue against or something to make it interesting. All right. It's time, everybody. It is time. I have Milo waiting in the wings here, so we're going to bring him on right now.
How's it going, Dr. Miano? It's good to be here.
Hey, there you are. Hey, this
good to see
StreamYard is
you.
easy. The OBS, I had so many problems bringing people in, but this just worked right away.
That's a good sign.
How is his sound, everybody? Are you hearing him all right?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay? I got the kind of wireless earbud situation going on here. I never know if I should trust it. We'll see when my latency starts to catch up.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, Miniminuteman.
Yeah.
Now, the reason, everybody, why I brought Miniminuteman on here is because we kind of do some of the same things. And I found him on TikTok originally. Now, you know how I have been, just in the last few months, I've been going on a TikTok and responding to funny, terrible archaeology videos and history videos. Well, I saw that Miniminuteman was doing it already. So I was thinking, oh, he's going to be mad at me for stealing his idea. But he's been doing it. Let me share with you just briefly his here is his page on TikTok. 1.6 million followers.
I know that number still scares me. I don't really know how that happened.
Yeah, and so let me just give him a taste. I'll give him a short one here. Oh yeah, because he's got a YouTube channel too, everybody, and he's starting to build that. So I encourage you to go over there to give him a subscribe. But,
Oh yes, the Perry Reese map. That's a fun one. At least I think that's what that is. Is that the Perry Reese map?
You don't want me
I
to show
forget
this
which one that is. Oh no. It's all coming back to me now. It's been a while since I filmed that video.
Anyway, but he's got a video on this map. Now remember, I did a Perry Reese map, everybody, and so this is kind of similar. He's done one on the Phineas map, so check out that
Phineas
video
map,
over on his channel.
Yeah,
you will not be disappointed.
Yeah, so it's great to be here. You know, it's funny that you mentioned the whole like, oh, like, you know, he was already doing this whole thing. The whole goal of this that I think is what makes it so great is just to see another person doing it. You know, I have some other people who, you know, I've had people tag me in videos for pretty much since I really started doing it, you know, asking me to debunk them and review them and things like that. And every once in a while, there'll be another creator who does things similar, and I'll get comments being like, oh, Milo, like he's copying you and stuff. I'm like, that's not the point. The point is I want to like have other people doing this because it's like, it's more important to get the word out to debunk this stuff than it is to be, you know, have a monopoly on the entire topic. You know, and you have, you know, an extensive education in the topic and can bring something to the table that I can't. So it's really important to just get as many people involved as possible. Because I mean, you know, you see people like Brian Forrester, who has like almost over 250,000 followers on YouTube and stuff. It's, you know, there's just such a density of these pseudo-archaeologists that it takes, you know, an army to actually be able to debunk them in, you know, any sort of efficient manner.
Well, I mean, even for me, you know, if I'm doing a video on a certain subject, I still have to research it. It's like I have everything up in here, you know.
Oh
So,
yeah.
and I know that's what you do. You want to do a video on a topic, you look it up, you do the
Oh yeah.
research, and then, you know, if only the people that you were debunking did that.
It would save me a lot of trouble.
Yes. But on your TikTok, how long did it take you to get to 1 million?
So to get to 1 million, it took me. I started like actively making videos about a year ago from right now. So my first real video to blow up that hit like 1 million views was in, I believe, early July or late June of 2021. And I hit 1 million in October or November of
Oh, that's fast.
2021. Yeah. I took a little bit of a hiatus after that because I was really focused on school, and have only just now sort of started getting back into it. So, yeah, it was a little scary watching how exponentially that number grows as time goes on.
Yeah, I guess it's easier to grow on TikTok. YouTube is much slower, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I know. I'm really grateful I started with when I started TikTok, I didn't actually intend on really like being a content creator. Like I just had friends who were like, just do it. You'd be funny with it. And I was like, I don't want to get TikTok. It seems stupid. And then I got it and then I started making content. I was like, okay, I see why people do this. So I'm grateful I got the start on TikTok because I mean, now that I've tried to transfer to YouTube, it's hard. It is really difficult to grow a channel on YouTube.
Yeah. So what was it, the popularity of the videos that you did on conspiracies and flat earth and bad archaeology that made you do more of them? Is that kind of how you
So,
got into that niche?
yeah, so it was a
Or
little
are
bit
you
of
just
that.
interested in it?
It is, I would say, primarily something I'm really interested in. I would say that archaeology is my oldest interest. I remember being about 4 years old and, you know, on the proto internet going to the, like, whatever page I could find on Otzi. He was like the first find that I was interested in. And I remember going with my dad to the library to go print out all of the papers of just like, you know, screenshots of the web page because I just loved it so much. And, you know, that passion has really never died while many of my other interests have shifted throughout my life. That one has always remained. And another thing which I love doing is I'm a big debater, which I mean you can see from my channel. I guess similarly, if we're talking about origins here, my dad used to call me the public defender for being pretty argumentative, and so I think I just sort of transferred a little bit of those two things of being like, this is something I'm passionate about. I feel confident in knowing at least a good foundation that I can build off with research, and then be able to tackle these things which are you know, falsehoods. And then of course the modern, you know, sphere that the world is in, you as a United States citizen of all people know that things have been pretty scary and the line between truth and fiction has been blurred way more than it should have been. So, you know, anything
It's come to
helps.
the point where I feel like people are rejecting what experts say just on principle. You
It
know what I mean?
is.
They're just like, oh, well, the experts say it. Well, it must be wrong.
It is. It's
You know what I mean?
frightening.
Like
And
people
the
have that
fact,
attitude. Yeah.
yeah, and the fact that people are, you know, championing a like I'm a, I do my own research, which could mean a lot. But when I hear someone say that, it to me sounds like you go to whatever think tank echo chamber, you stick with. It's like, okay, I do my research on flat earth. You only go to flat earth websites. You never like look at, other evidence. You do your research, you look at episodes of Ancient Aliens. You don't actually like, look at what is the history of Göbekli Tepe? What are some of the running theories? It's very interesting to hear people try and claim that makes them more, I guess, well-versed on a topic.
Yeah. It's yeah, they because I've even asked people when they've said like, oh well, I've spent years studying this. The best way to respond to that I found is just say, well, have you read this? Did you look at this? They
Typically,
usually have
no.
not. Yeah. So yeah. So you have a series called Awful Archaeology, right?
I do, yes.
And what's the premise basically?
So the premise of Awful Archaeology is, whereas a lot of my videos on TikTok revolve around a specific video that I find or am tagged in, and I just debunk that one video, Awful Archaeology is meant to show that there is a wide array of pseudoscience and pseudo-archaeology that kind of needs talking about. So typically I try and talk about a mix of things which are really well known and things which aren't really well known. So, there's, countless conspiracies about, building the pyramids and stuff like that. But people may not know about, the Clute Bowl or the Beartooth Highway Molar, or these things which are just a lot smaller, but are used in these more rhetorical circles in order to bolster their misinformation. So I think it's kind of important to have this diverse, cast of different topics to discuss in order to really show how deep rooted it is and how dangerous it really can be.
Yeah, you've done one on the Bat Creek inscription, is that right?
I have done one on the Bat Creek inscription. It was or the Grave Creek inscription.
I'm
Bat
sorry.
Creek, yeah.
Yeah, it's a different one, isn't it?
Yes, there are quite a few. The United States is full of them, especially, I mean, it's what happens when you have a country which, has not done a whole lot of archaeology on their own soil. It's really easy for, people to fabricate artifacts and to, draw conclusions, just because there is a lack of understanding in the topic. So.
Yes, totally. So what are you going to do with it in the future? Are you working on a new one right now, or are you busy with school?
It's actually I'm glad you mentioned that. My next episode is actually supposed to be coming out tomorrow, which is going to be on the Dendera, which should be pretty interesting. So I think that's one that people are typically a little bit more familiar with. I've definitely just in kind of advertising my upcoming episode, I've seen a lot more people who seem familiar with it, which makes sense. I feel like the Grave Creek Stone is something which is a little bit more niche. But the Dendera is something which, it's been on Ancient Aliens. It's, it was, talked about by Eric von Däniken and like Chariots of the Gods and stuff. So it's something which I'm looking forward to just, taking down. So that's going to be my next episode. And other than that, I have to remake my wheel that I use to pick my conspiracy theories, because I just graduated college and I had my old wheel stored in my Google Drive and I lost my Google Drive. So I have to make it again.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I put too much faith in the system.
Things like that have happened to me before too. It's the worst feeling when you're like, oh, I lost it all,
Yeah, it can be a bit of a pain. But yeah, no, I'm excited to continue it going forward. And doing content creation is now my full-time job since I'm done with college. And so I will hopefully be able to give it a lot more attention and, be able to really work with it going forward.
Excellent. By the way, I've been putting super chats on the screen. Thank you so much, everyone, for your donations. They're greatly appreciated. This is something that I thought we could talk a little bit about, Miniminuteman. I did not tell you this ahead of time, but I was jotting down a list of vocabulary of pseudo-archaeology. So if a person, just for the average viewer, if you're on YouTube or whatever, and you're clicking on something, oh, this ancient, I love ancient history, I'm going to click on this ancient history. What are some of the telltale signs that you're watching a pseudo-archaeology video? So you can chime in too, Milo. I just jotted a couple things down, maybe to get your mind thinking about this. But have you ever heard people use the term oopart? Do you know what
oopart? I've heard oopa, out of place artifact. Is it
Yes, that's
similar?
what it is. It's
Okay.
what you've heard of UPA as well. Well,
Yeah,
UPART
yeah,
or
yeah.
UPA, yeah, out of place artifact, which is not
Hmm.
a archaeological term, right? It's obviously something you will
No.
never find in a scholarly video or anything, that you'll find from an
Yeah,
actual archaeologist.
no artifact is out of place. Every artifact is in place.
Right. Now, there are artifacts that may say, "Oh, this has come from somewhere else. It was transferred."
Yes.
That does happen, but no one ever says "oopart." So if you're
No.
watching a video on YouTube and they say the word "oopa" or "oopart," you know that you're watching probably a pseudo-archaeology video. Another
Yeah, it's
one,
a good rule of thumb.
yes. um, Another one, um, megalithic period or the megalithic age. Now, I shouldn't, not in all cases, because I know that in India there is an actual megalithic period. But when they refer to the megalithic times or megalithic age, this is a fake time period that they're just basically taking all of the large megaliths and they're saying they all belong to the same time period, which they don't. But I noticed if they start talking about a megalithic period, it's usually an indication that you're watching a pseudo-archaeology video.
Yeah,
uh,
I feel like megaliths are one of those things which are so easily thrown around that people don't like, especially just with the suffix of like lithic. You know, you think of like, oh, like Neolithic and stuff like
yeah,
that, and
yeah,
people don't realize like a megalith is like a structure which didn't really have a time period. Like megaliths have been built for like for recorded history.
yeah.
So to say a
We still
megalithic
use
period
megalith.
is like
Yeah,
exactly, yeah. There's a megalith down the street from me. It's in a park, but it's a big rock standing on its end. Like
yeah.
it was probably built in like 2005, but it's still a megalith.
Right, right. Yeah, there is no one time period that you can put it, and which is interesting because that they do that actually with a lot of things where they're like, "Oh, look it, they have a pyramid over here and they have a pyramid over here.
Hmm.
Must be from the same time period." You know what I mean? Even though
Yeah,
the pyramids look completely different.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, a great example of that is like Stonehenge. Like Stonehenge, while it is one largely visible complex, like it was built over the course of like hundreds of years. There's like so many like layers that were like built on that you can't really see anymore quite as easily. But it's like, there was no like, oh, like here we're in it's time for megaliths. Let's go. Like it
yes,
was just, built upon time after time. So
yes,
and another one that I think is kind of interesting, which is less of something you may see in like a more amateur video, and is something I've seen a lot more in like Ancient Aliens and stuff like that, is where someone who is, supposed to be an expert, like, they're the one talking about it, they're labeled as an author. It's a little one, but I
yes,
think
yes.
that's really
Author,
funny.
yes.
Yeah, and I'm
Or
not one to be like,
researcher is another one.
or
A
researcher.
researcher, right?
Researching what, and I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
one who has to be like, you need a laundry list of credentials in order to talk about archaeology. That's one of the beautiful things about science, is so many people are researching it that anyone can do their own research and the information is readily available. So I'm not like you have to be a PhD in order to
no,
even
right,
talk
right.
about it.
Nothing
But
against researchers or
oh,
authors,
absolutely.
but right.
Absolutely. But I find it really funny when someone who clearly does not have a very good grasp on the reality of a topic is labeled as just an author, because they don't have the credentials to be anything else.
Yeah,
Like they have no
and if
formal archaeology
yeah,
training.
yeah, and if you don't believe that you need credentials, then you don't have to make up a fake a credential, right? You don't have to say
Exactly.
I'm a special researcher or whatever. You could just say I'm just me. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
exactly.
But the fact that they want to put something there
Yeah.
to kind of make it sound as if they have credentials, that's kind of the interesting thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I've definitely kind of noticed a lot in my time doing this, is because archaeology is such a field that is, like stereotyped as being this very like highly academic, field, which it is by and large. Many of the people I met in college are like lifetime career archaeologists. But that's something that I've noticed a lot when doing my videos, is I'm like, I don't know what to label myself as, because it make me feel like a fraud to say that I am an archaeologist when I have like a training in it. I haven't been out on a dig, so it's like I don't want to like claim that, when in reality that title requires a lot of research and a lot of time and investment in order to say that. So I'm just like, I'm Milo. I talk about this stuff. You guys know I've been researching it, my whole life. I'm a researcher.
Yes.
But like, I don't feel the need to like make up some title to try and make myself sound like I'm, I don't know, better
Mhm.
than I am.
Yeah, yeah. Here's another one that I used to see a lot. Uh, Precision architecture or precision. What
Hmm.
they use this word precision like like it's this kind of architecture. It's like a look at this precision artifact. Uh,
Hmm.
Usually you don't find in regular archaeologists. I mean, they'll talk about something with maybe having precision, but they don't like have it as like an identifier. You know what I'm saying? Like, look
Yeah.
at this precision. stone or this precision pillar or whatever. It seems to be a catchword that's used a lot in the pseudo-archaeology videos. Nothing wrong with the word precision. Nothing wrong with describing it as precise, but as a catchword, kind of.
It almost implies, like, it carries with it the thought that the person is going to think that precision and ancient people are mutually exclusive. Like, it's precise and therefore you should be confused about it. Not it's precise and they were really good at doing what they did because that was what their civilization revolved around. Like, here's a giant pyramid and it was built with such precision. Like, of course it was. That was a massive investment to spend all that time building the pyramid. You're going to make it perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are so many. You have one. What's up?
Well, if you have any, just
I know.
just go ahead.
I'm racking my brain.
I'm just interested in getting your thoughts on each one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So another one I see sometimes is a Great Reset. Now, this is used also in conspiracy theories, so it's, it's something different as well. But in reference to ancient history, they'll talk about the Great Reset or a Great Reset. And they're talking about because there was once a lost advanced civilization, but then it got destroyed and the earth reset, right? In other words, the world had to start all over again. But you'll never find the expression Great Reset in an actual history or archaeology video. You'll only find it in those types of videos. So if you hear that expression, then you're like, oh, this might be one of those kind of videos. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the language is very assumption-based language. I mean, similarly to the precision one, saying Great Reset is, rhetorical in the sense that by just saying it, you are stating it as fact. When in reality, if there was any sort of evidence for it, it would be something which, if there was any sort of evidence for it, it would be used more widely. And there would also be evidence backing it up. Like, here, let's talk about the Great Reset. Here's proof that it happened. And now I can use it in conversation. Whereas that barrier has never been crossed. So by just saying the Great Reset, and now here's the story of Atlantis, you and I are going to be like, well, let's talk about Atlantis because it's wrong, or whatever the evidence is weak. But it's almost like a filibuster that takes you off topic because the Great Reset still slips under the cracks and it's an assumption without ever giving any evidence for it.
Right. And I know it's used in other ways. I'm just talking about in this particular context. And there might be actually some other, maybe there are some real usages of the word in other contexts. But I mean, in this, so basically I'm just identifying lingo that you might find in a video that's what we might call a pseudo-archaeology video. Another word that's used all the time is mainstream. Okay, so right,
mainstream archaeologists. XYZ,
right, and almost as a pejorative. You know what I mean? It's like like it's a bad thing. If it's mainstream, it is.
Which is very weird, and it does kind of highlight that fact that the irony there is how these people will try and make up, give themselves titles when they then go on to try and undermine people who are professionals in their field. It's like, so do you trust professionals or do you not trust professionals? Because you're going through a lot of work to try and look like a professional, but then when you talk about mainstream archaeologists, you say it with such, vitriol that it sounds like you have a problem with it. It's very weird.
Yeah. I saw recently on it might have been Forrest Valkai. It was on a science debunking channel. Or he's a scientist who debunks pseudoscience, but he was saying, he referred to the expression mainstream science. He's like, that's just science. You know what I mean? It's like, there's no other, you know what I mean? There's no other thing. There's science and then there's not science. There's no mainstream science. I'm not sure if you can say it with archaeology or history or not. Maybe you could use it with those. I don't know. But if someone calls something mainstream, they're obviously advocating something that isn't mainstream.
Yes. Which is interesting. It does kind of turn it into, a way of slipping doubt into science, not mainstream science, just science. There's a reason why it's mainstream because most people unanimously agree upon it. So it's a really interesting way of undermining it and then, like you said earlier, as we touched on, it, feeds into the idea that what the majority believes is not true and that you are more capable of, going onto a flat earth website and watching Ancient Aliens and doing your own research. And that makes you just as good as mainstream science.
Yeah. Or they'll use the word orthodox. Orthodox.
Yes. In the video that I'm editing, or the Dendera-lite video, there's one video that talks about that quite a bit. Yeah.
Which kind of implies they're telling you have to believe this. you know?
Yeah, exactly. In the video that I was reviewing for that one that I'm posting soon, there's this tinfoil hat conspiracy YouTube page, and the woman on it is talking about she was like, there have been many scientists who have challenged the orthodox beliefs of science. I'm like, that's a great lead up because it's absolutely true. Science is built off of questioning. Science is built off of finding ways to refute those before you and improve on their research. And I was like, so who's she going to say? And her researcher who challenged the orthodox beliefs of science was Eric von Daniken. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
okay.
Yes, yes,
So pretty funny what constitutes unorthodox.
yes, yes. Another bit of lingo I hear quite a bit is well, not a lot, but it does come up from time to time, and that is gradualism.
Ooh, I don't
As
know if
ref-
I've heard that one.
okay,
Huh.
gradualism refers to the mainstream idea that technology gradually progresses over time, and
Hmm.
they're like, oh, gradualism is not true because they give us the opposite, catastrophism, which is the idea that you can have high technology and then you can go way down to nothing and then you can come back up again and then go down. So in other words, that if you look at the timeline of history, it's not going to be a gradual improvement of technology over time. It's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go up, or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So they speak of gradualism as being in error. All the
Interesting.
mainstream they assume gradualism is true. Um,
What's really interesting is the thought that, like, on a small scale, I almost think that's not entirely incorrect. Like, there are civilizations which rise and fall.
yeah,
Like,
yes,
you could even, but to, and that kind of touches on another thing which I notice as a running theme with a lot of these, especially ancient aliens conspiracy theories, is this misconception of how interconnected the world was. Like, you'll notice, like, they'll pull sites from all across the planet because we are raised in a global society. We are living at the only time in history that we know of that every single person and civilization in the world is connected. I'm talking to you right now. I don't even know where you are, and I'm talking to you through a phone. Someone, sent a super chat from Brazil a minute ago. Like, we all can talk to each other. And because we have been raised in a world like this, they have this weird idea that everything is connected. And so when they think about it, ancient history, they think about it as the story of Earth instead of the story of civilizations cropping up in different places. So it's really interesting that reset theory, while I think it's hyperbolic, could be true on a small scale. I mean, the obvious one
oh
that comes to
yeah,
mind is Rome. Rome was
right. And then
highly
you went into
advanced
the Dark
and then
Ages. Yeah,
collapsed.
yeah.
Exactly. So, like, yeah, that can happen.
It doesn't go all the way down to the bottom. They
Exactly.
always assume it goes all the way down to the bottom, but yeah.
Exactly. It's not like suddenly they one day they were bred in circuses, Colosseum, lead piping, and then the next day they were like figuring out how to like flint knap obsidian.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was not that drastic, but like it sort of happened.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But you were right though that they think of everything as the whole world is all kind of either all up or all down, or yeah, it's
Yeah.
and it's not. It wasn't like that. They were very isolated. A lot of these places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the first couple episodes of Ancient Aliens that I've stomached being able to go through. At some point, I want to do something with it, but I can't do that right now. The something that I think is really funny is how every single example is from a different part of the world, but they're all parts of the world where there were no white people. Is a trend that you'll see. Is every single one is like, oh, here's South America, North America, Africa, the Middle East. It's never like the only one that they talk about in Europe is Stonehenge. It's like, why do you guys have such a hard time believing, it's like, okay, the rest of the world is, unanimously not European. And how did they build all this stuff? It has like this undertone of racism that's just really uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah. Do you see this on the super chat on the screen?
Ooh, when people find modern artifacts embedded in coal deposits, could coal be developed faster than first thought? That's actually a really interesting thought. I've never considered it like that. Huh.
I know there are a few artifacts that have been found where they say, look, here is a hammer embedded in
The London Hammer, yeah.
yeah, or where and it looks like the stone or the coal or whatever is millions of years old. How is that possible? So I guess the question here is, well, maybe the coal developed faster than we first thought. I would think it is more likely actually that it's something formed around the object than like well, with the London Hammer, it's not coal. It's
Yeah, it was some sort of sedimentary stone. I think it was like
yeah, which
limestone or
could
something
have
like that.
formed
Yeah, it
around
was
it.
like a stalactite, or I can't remember what that
Yeah, yeah,
process is called, but like, it built up over time.
yeah. I think
But
the Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, the only one I can think of is the Clute Bowl is the one which I think was allegedly found embedded in coal. And Morpholoff, to add a little bit to your question, what is interesting is the assumption that it actually was found in coal, because the Clute Bowl is not actually presented alongside a piece of coal that bears its imprint, or it's not still embedded in it. It's just a bowl displayed in the Creation Evidence Museum next to a piece of coal. So the only evidence that we actually have that it was ever in coal is from two miners who were the ones that found it. And these were people, working in a mine in the 1800s. I don't know if I take their word for it. There's not enough evidence to even suggest that it was found in coal. I believe it was in a coal mine, but there is no evidence to say that it even was there. So I would say that an artifact like that, unless proven that it was in coal, it would not change the idea of how long it takes coal to develop.
Yeah, yeah. I would say, yeah, there's been enough science done on coal to know how long it would take for it to form. I don't think it's gonna change very much.
Mm-hmm.
Doubt that. Yeah.
And you touch on, I guess, kind of an interesting point here is, especially kind of like looking at that super chat and just looking at how many of these creationists, or not only creationists, but, ancient aliens, conspiracy theorists, and pseudo-archaeologists, they think so far outside the box, which is ironic because, like, that would almost be a benefit to science if they reined it in a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
science is built on, like, the idea of questioning stuff and being like, let's take it a little bit further. Let's see, like, what we can build on. And there really is a problem in the scientific world of people being so staunchly against change, especially when someone has pioneered a field. It's like, I did all this work. I don't want, like, some young guy to come in and suddenly change everything. Like, it happens like that in everything, especially in science fields. But, like, that's the whole point of it. And so it'd be really interesting if these people, like, actually spent a little bit of time on their research and put all of that, brain power and that inquisitiveness and that curiosity towards developing a real hypothesis based off of the fact and the research and evidence that was made by those before them.
Yes. People are sometimes surprised. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do this. Okay. People are sometimes surprised when I tell them that when I was in grad school, I had a reputation for being the one that was always thinking of ideas outside the box, right? Because they think of me, they see my YouTube channel, they think I am a staunch defender of the establishment line, just because I address these outlandish claims, bizarre claims. They think I'm not open-minded, but actually, in my actual scholarship, I'm always trying to think of some new idea that people haven't thought of before. But I give the other impression just because of my debunking videos.
Yeah, and that's again, a great point. I was watching your stream a little bit, like while I was in the waiting room, and just kind of like seeing sort of the interaction with fans and whatnot. And what I think is really interesting about this field is how long you can go and just still be learning stuff. Like when I do like live things and I have people talking to me, they'll be like, "Oh, have you read this or have you heard of this theory?" And most of the time, it's no. And I'm like, I feel like I have a decent grasp on stuff, but it's just such a huge field that it's like you're always learning stuff. And so it's like, just because someone is telling me about a book that I've never read before doesn't mean the book doesn't exist. It's like you always are open to these new things. And then, like you said, then giving off the whole argumentative thing and being like, no, this is fact. It can give the impression that it's like, well, you just don't like change.
Yes,
So,
yes. Yeah,
but
I want to do that more on my channel where I have some of my own original ideas. But actually, see, if I have an original idea, I want to publish it in an academic journal.
for sure.
Do I want to put it on YouTube first before I have it all formulated? Probably
that's a good
not.
way to get an idea stolen.
Yeah. So that's a lot of that's why, and also I'm a teacher by trade, and my YouTube channel is for teaching people. I don't in my classes at the college, I don't hey, here's my new theory. I don't do it there because it's not really the venue for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's for, when I want to present it at a conference, or if I want to put it in a journal or something like that, that's where I have the new ideas. But I know a lot of my viewers are asking me to do it on my channel.
I mean, I'd be curious to see what you got, so.
Yeah. But
yeah, it's interesting how there is such a kind of like laundry list of new stuff we've even learned, just recently. I mean, there's earlier this year, there was the, evidence that humans have been in North America for like 10,000 years longer than we thought, like in White Sands where they found the footprints and stuff. And it's like there's always this like breakthrough that we're like constantly changing. And, like now if you go on any map that shows, progression through the world, like, or what we thought progression was in rough timelines, they're all wrong. Like everything is wrong. And I think that's a misconception that a lot of these conspiracy theorists have, is that, people like you and I and a lot of the people watching right now are, we're like, this is fact. We don't want to expand anymore. We do. We want to learn this stuff. We want to be better informed about how the world was. That's why we do this. It's just when someone comes and starts, just bringing up this rhetoric and stuff that doesn't make any sense, then it's like, well, now you're doing more harm than good, and you're not thinking outside the box. You are setting the box on fire.
Yes. Yes. So. That's a good soundbite. Yes. Yeah, I mean, textbooks are revised every couple of years. You know what I mean? It's like there's always something new to put in them. And
yeah,
so
trust me, I was
funny
a college
when you hear
student.
people say, "Oh, you never change. You never want to change anything. You only want to keep it." But what they mean is you don't want to radically change it like the way I want it to be changed. But that doesn't mean it's not changing.
Exactly. Yeah. I had a professor when I was a student in Maine who was awesome. He was like my idol of a archaeology professor. He was in charge of an excavation of like an entire like new city in South America. He just had so many cool stories. And Ancient Aliens actually asked him to be on their show. And he was like, "Why are you asking me? Because like I'm clearly not going to give you what you want." And so he talked to some like of his colleagues and whatnot. And apparently what they'll do is they'll have interviews with real archaeologists with real credentials that you can put on the screen, and then snip up their sound bites to make it sound like they're, like kind of questioning it, or maybe like things that they can like fit into the segment to make it fit with what they're saying. So like it really is. It's like complete academic dishonesty. I don't really know how you can get away with that.
That's not something that I want to hear. You know why?
Why?
I actually was invited to appear on William Shatner's show. The Unexplained. And I went to LA and I shot my bit. Wow. I hope they don't do that to me.
Well, I hope that they also give you the raw footage. So if anyone starts to be like,
it'll make a great video. If they do, I can make a video about it.
Absolutely. There you go.
But they told me they wouldn't do that. But it was the same production team that does Ancient Aliens.
That's horrifying. Well, I hear they have some good editors.
Or I should say the same production company. I don't know if it's the same individual team members, but
gotcha. Well, I'm curious to see how that turns out.
Yeah, it's going to come out in September, so we'll see what happens.
Ooh. Yeah, it is interesting how much people will, change words. Oh, it looks like we got a super chat that has yet to pop up on there it is. TikTok cringe reaction collaboration.
Yes,
I mean, I would be more than down to do like some sort of collaboration in the future. I'm trying to work with some other creators and stuff, especially now that I'm doing this as a full-time gig.
We could do it.
Yeah, I'd be totally down. If people ask and they shall receive.
I'd be up for that. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's good.
One. Regarding humans in America, what is the current consensus on how humans arose in America? Is it still the migrated from Africa theory? I thought it was migrated from Asia theory.
I guess in a long shot, it is migrated from Africa. I mean, everyone's migrated from Africa at some point.
I see. I see what she means. Oh, she means originally. Oh, yeah.
I think originally, there is no evidence to support that humans, evolved in separate.
Oh, that's regions. What she's talking. Okay, so where humans started. Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it is still,
it's still out of
African
Africa.
Hypothesis. Yeah. The methods which they got to North America have changed. I didn't know until I started doing TikTok. I didn't know about the Kelp Highway theory, which makes a lot more sense, especially if we're looking at the 23,000 year date that the White Sands footprints date to. That Kelp Highway theory sounds a lot more probable, just because of how locked up with ice the land bridge would have been at the time. So the methods by which they got there is still heavily contested.
Did you do a footprint video?
I did my creationist footprint video, which was pretty fun. Ones walking alongside dinosaur tracks and stuff like that. Yeah. So those ones are always fun. It is. There's like this, there's the whole branch of pseudo-archaeology, pseudoscience, ancient aliens, which is like this very kind of like almost a spiritual kind of group around it. And then there's this very unique uniquely American side of pseudo-archaeology, which is like the creationist I like conspiracies, which is really interesting because they're really only in the United States, like things where it's like, here's proof that, you know, man and dinosaur walked alongside one another, you know, in this lake bed in Texas. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have not been to the they asked me earlier today if I'd been to the Creationist Museum. I have not. Have you been there?
I have not, but I talked about it in my footprint video, and I really want to go. I think they have I think the Clute Bowl and the London Hammer are both there, actually. And I
Oh,
just want to
okay.
go see those. I'm like, yeah, it's just a bowl that someone used in like 1880, but I'd love to go see it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, prehistory and all that is out of my area, but I get asked questions about it constantly because this idea of placing a lost advanced civilization is in the prehistoric period, even though they take artifacts from my period, the ancient period, and want to
Hmm.
place it there, you know. So
Yeah.
I defend the current placement. Like, no, that artifact is actually from ancient times where, you know, where the thing is from, not from prehistoric times. Uh,
Yeah. And it's a shame too because of just how I am very interested in the prehistoric kind of archaeology side of things. That's like you know, when I go on to get like a more formal training in the topic, that's really where I want to specialize. And it's such an interesting time period because we just know like so little about it. Like humans have been functionally the same as we are for the last 300,000 years. Like thinking the same way and like you know looking more or less the same way, like we have been the people that we are now for that long, which is just mind-blowing. And the fact that like you know you mentioned before I joined the call here, you were talking about you know like history 1 and history 2. It's like okay, you were going from 4000 you know BC to like you know 1750 and then everything else, and putting aside the fact how ridiculous it is that you are expected to cram you know like 6000 years of human history in one semester and then the last like 150 in the last one. You know it's such an interesting thing to think that like before that you know 4000 BC there's so much that we just don't know, which is just it's mind-blowing. It's really cool. So whenever there's a new you know discovery about that, you know it's something that is just fascinating to me.
yeah. Hey, what do
Yeah.
you has any? I don't. I was going to say, what do you say when people say? But I don't know if they've said it to you. But I get this from time to time. People will say, "Well, look at all these times that scientists have been wrong, or archaeologists have been wrong, or historians have been
Hmm.
wrong. So clearly, we
Yeah.
can't trust them."
Yes, I have heard that many times, and it's a really interesting one to try and contend with because, like, a lot of, I mean, whenever they bring up an example, they're right. That person was wrong. What I think is an underlying thread through all of these conspiracy theories is how every single one of them has to know what the truth is. Not a single conspiracy theorist is willing to admit the truth, which is that we don't know. There is so much that we don't know, and you have to be willing to accept that as a scientist, and your job is yes to like try and figure it out and try and know. That's the whole goal of it. But to not know is fine. Like one of the things that I get a lot is people being like, can you like debunk or prove like this video like talking about like the existence of God or something like that? And I'm like, I can't do that. I can't prove that like you know God doesn't exist, and I can't prove that he does. I'm like, it's just it's one of these things where like people need like a concrete answer. I'm like, I'm okay admitting that I have no idea. You know, when people are like, oh, well, if, you know, he doesn't exist, then where did life come from on Earth? I have no idea. I don't know. And I'm okay saying that, you know? So a lot of these things, you know, it revolves around people needing to just have an answer. So when they're like, you know, well, scientists were wrong at this point, it's like there's things now that maybe will be wrong in the future, things now that definitely will be wrong in the future. But that is not to say that everything is going to be wrong, and you don't have to make up an answer when we don't know, you know?
Right? Yeah, I get this with
Oh my
well, then
God,
how was
Irving
the Great
Finkel.
Pyramid made? You tell me. How was
Yeah, it's like, I
and
don't know, I
well,
wasn't
there's still a
there.
lot of unanswered questions. Well, if you can't explain how it was made, then obviously the Egyptians didn't do it, you know, or something.
Exactly. And it is, it's an unfalsifiable hypothesis. It's the exact
Mhm.
same thing, you know, an extreme example, but, you know, it's the exact same thing as saying that you can or can't prove the existence of God. You can't. No one can or can't do that. Like, it is all about just what you believe to be true. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when someone is like, you know, like, oh, you can't prove how they built the pyramids, so it must have been aliens. Like, well, you can't prove that aliens did it either. So it's like you end up in just this loop, which is how these people get you. It's really crazy.
Mhm. Mhm. great stream today. Could you invite Irving Finkel sometime? It would be
I would lose my mind if I got to be on a stream with Irving Finkel. He is incredible. He over quarantine was when I like figured out who he was, and he inspired me. One of my quarantine projects was making the Royal Game of which I have on my shelf somewhere over there. But I would love to have him on the stream at some point. That would be so cool.
It would be cool. But I'll tell you this, I recently invited someone else from the British Museum on, and they said they couldn't because of well, his explanation was a little unclear, but it was something to the effect that, well, we already have our own YouTube channel and we don't want to. It was something about, he used the word copyright, but that didn't really make sense. It was something about we don't want to detract from our own videos by going.
You're the British Museum. You're going to be fine.
So I don't know if it was just that department. It was the I forget which department. It was one of the ancient history departments, but maybe I should reach out to Irving and see if he says something different.
The people want it. That's all I'm saying. The people want it. We can share this stream with him. Tag Irving Finkel.
Yes. Oh, you have. Oh, one of the viewers says they have seen him being interviewed on another YouTuber stream.
Hey, we got him. Let's go.
I just have to find his email. It's hard to find people's email at British Museum, but I will try to find it. I'd love to get him on. Yeah, maybe once I hit 100,000, I'll be big enough where I'll feel like it's worth it. I don't know.
I like that. That's pretty good. Yeah, that would be pretty awesome to have him on. I don't even know what I would say. I mean, he is just such an unbelievably intelligent person who is just like thinking at this level that is so huge. Like, I don't even know. I would just want to ask him questions.
Yeah, I know. And he just looks the part, doesn't he?
Oops. Oh my God. Yeah, he's like a cool wizard archaeologist. He's awesome.
Oh yeah, that was the next one. Okay, so next one from Caleb here. I feel like one of the biggest issues with people who question archaeology is that they can't wrap their mind around long ago 1, 10, 100,000 or million years of it actually was.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Like, honestly, and I think that's the case with a lot of conspiracy theorists, is the inability to wrap your head around what is not directly in front of you and what you are comfortable with. Like, you know, this whole thing of being, you know, I recently did some flat earth videos on my YouTube, and, you know, people are like, oh, you know, you can't see the curvature of the earth when you're like standing on a mountain. It's like, because the earth is so big. Like, you can't understand how big the earth is. Even when I read you, you know, numbers like X millions miles diameter, it's like, that doesn't even mean anything. It's just in one ear and out the other. But it's like, we cannot comprehend how big the things we're talking about are. Like, you know, she's talking about like, oh, like the stars in the sky, we don't see them changing even though Earth is moving through space. It's like, yeah, we don't, because we only live 80 years roughly. So, you know, of course they're changing over the course of thousands and thousands of years. And there's proof of that because ancient like Babylonian texts talk about constellations and they've changed since then. And, you know, modern astronomers can track the stars, and there's sliders that you can use to see how they looked in the past and how they look in the future. But of course, you can't use that as evidence, because then they're going to just say like, well, that's made up by NASA. So they just have an animation that, you know, tricks you into thinking it.
Yeah.
So, you know, people just can't wrap their head around things that aren't directly in front of them. It's pretty crazy.
Along the same lines, it's a little bit different, but I get this from time to time. I'll get the comment, well, how is it possible that civilization just popped up overnight? Look at the Egyptians. Suddenly they could build a pyramid. It's like they have nothing, and suddenly they build a pyramid. And I'm like, wait a minute. There was a long time that passed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They had their whole Stone Age and everything. They had so it was gradual. It's just that from our point of view, looking back on it, we're thinking, oh, well, from, you know, 5,000 BC to up until 2000, that, you know, that's overnight. It seemed, but it's like 3,000 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it is a huge amount of time. It's longer than we, like, you know, when you think back to like our just time span. You know, we're in 2022. It's like that is less time that we have gone from, you know, like the Roman Empire until now than it was for them to rise, you know, to where they got. Like, it's huge amounts of time.
Yes. So it is gradual. I don't know. People do get the impression, but it is like that. The farther back it is, the more it seems like this time's shorter or something. You know, like if I said, you know, if I say, look at 1922, which is 100 years ago, the world is a lot different from 1922. You know, I mean, a lot as far as technology or whatever. There's a lot of progression since 1922. That's only 100 years. Now imagine
Yeah.
1,000 years. You know what I mean? Go back 1,000 years to the year 1000. I mean, how much it has changed. So
Yeah.
yeah, but when you're talking about, oh, 3,500 BCE to 2,500 BCE, is like, oh, it's just like overnight. It's like
Yeah,
overnight.
exactly. That was pretty quick.
Yeah,
Yeah, when like it's an incomprehensible amount of time. And that's why I think that 300,000 number like is just so fascinating of like the amount of time that people I'm sure you've seen, like everyone growing up watched, there was the like eyewitness documentaries about dinosaurs and or like whatever, and at the very end it would be like, here's the world as a calendar page, and like humans would only appear on like the like 11:59 and 58 seconds on the last day of the last month, and it's like
yeah,
like that's crazy to think about, but it's even crazier to think that like that time, that tiny little piece of time has been so long, we've only recorded the last tiny little bit of it, so it's like what happened more than 10,000 years ago, like we hear like all like, oh, like the birth of civilization, we have like the city of and Göbekli Tepe and the pyramids and all these things, but it's like what happened for the literal hundreds of thousands of years before then. It's so interesting to think about. It's so cool.
it is. It's very cool. Um,
Yeah.
this is one of the reasons why I was actually, when I first went to college, I was going to do high school social studies. That's what I was
Interesting.
going to do,
Huh.
and I was learning European history and all this kind of stuff, um, and but I thought I'll take a few electives, and I took a couple ancient history courses, and I'm like, this is so much more interesting.
Oh yeah.
And then I just wanted to do ancient history, and it's because it's so far removed from us. It's like a whole different world. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, there's a lot of obviously people are people, but human beings are human beings, and they act a lot of the same ways.
Yeah.
But it's just a completely different world back then, and it's just very fascinating. And we know less about it, so there's more wiggle room for even ideas.
Hmm.
You know, like arguing about what happened 200 years ago is harder because you've got a lot of documentation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But arguing about what happened 2,000 or 4,000 years ago, there's a lot of room for disagreement.
Yeah, and that's why people come up with alien stuff. Because like,
They don't even have to
like
go that far. There's enough to
yeah.
argue about.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, no, it is really, fascinating to just think about what we don't have access to anymore, like what we will never know. I mean, people like, yeah, we have like an extensive lithic history, but as far as like permanent structures and stuff, there wasn't all that many of those. But there was highly, advanced functioning societies that were making these lithics and probably made, wooden brush structures that of course are gone now. Like it is entirely possible that there were multi-story buildings made out of wood at one time that
Yeah.
we would have literally no evidence of at all. So, one of the questions that I think I get the most on my channel, which I've never actually addressed before other than in streams, which I probably should, is there a conspiracy that you would agree with? And I think conspiracy has a very negative connotation, especially with what you and I do. But I would have to say that, like, it is that humans had like very advanced iterations historically that just didn't leave behind a strong enough material
Oh yeah.
record that has survived, like you see so much evidence of it. Like there was a in one of my most recent videos, I talked about a site that they recently found in Israel from a declining lake bed. And they found, all sorts of like fish and game. It was like, right towards the end of the last glacial maximum. And one of the locations they found that was a little bit more unusual was there was a site that was just bird wings, just like bird wing assemblages in like various like orientations. And the running theory is that it could have been some sort of religious or ceremonial significance. And it's amazing to think about that because it's like, what did these people believe? Like, yeah, it's interesting to find a hearth and like, oh, they ate like an antelope and a goose and stuff like that, and they went fishing and here's a net. Like, that's all very cool stuff, but like everyone's done that for all of human history. People have had to eat and drink water. Like, that's not that groundbreaking. And what fascinated me was like, what did they think? Because they're not cavemen. They're not like the stereotypes, like knuckle dragging with a club. I hit a deer, I eat it, and then I just sit there in silence until I have to eat again. It's like these people believed in something. Maybe the wings were to ensure better game coming in the future and
Mhm.
landing on the lake. And like it's just so cool to think of how intelligent these people really
Yeah.
were.
I think of a young boy asking, his parents, why is such and such like this or whatever, and they're like, well,
Yeah.
please, son, whatever, and what did they say,
Yeah. And they believed stuff. Like, another
Yeah.
one that I saw recently was the first depictions of sound It was on a cave wall. I can't remember where it is, but there's like a picture of a cave lion, and there's these like jagged lines coming out of its mouth, which, and then there's alongside it, there's other depictions of sound. There's two people standing next to each other with these like small, like wispy lines between their like ears, which could be like a whisper. And it's so interesting that people thought the same way. Like if you asked a child right now to draw a lion roaring, they would probably do the same shapes. Like people think the same way we did back then. We just have all this stuff around us now that makes us feel like we're so much more removed from it.
Mm-hmm. My natural inclination is when evidence is presented to suggest that, oh, maybe the people who made this were more intelligent or their technology was better than what we thought, I say, oh, okay, so they could do this. They had better technology, or they were smarter. I don't understand the mentality where they say, well, they were too dumb to do that. It must have been done by a lost advanced civilization. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why can't you just say, oh, the Egyptians knew more? You know what I mean? They had,
you have physical evidence.
They had better technology than we thought. They were smarter than we thought, or they were, more advanced than we thought. Why does it have to be like, well, no, they obviously couldn't have done it, so it must have been somebody else.
Yeah. And that really boils it down to like a perfect point is the whole thing of like, oh, they couldn't have done it. You are looking at one of the largest structures in the ancient world. It is directly in front of you. It does not get more obvious than that. Like, you want proof? There you go. Like,
yes,
of course they did it.
Yeah, I know. It's in their land.
Yeah, it's right
all
there.
Their stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
They're like, oh no, they stole it. They appropriated it from somebody else.
Oh, it's horrible. It really is. It really is.
Okay, here's one. Do you believe teaching historical method and source criticism to high schoolers could increase history literacy and reduce belief in pseudo-history? Yes.
Could you define historical method and source criticism? Is that just double checking?
Basically, it is the historical method, how to analyze sources. So history is mainly looking at documents. Like, how do you, when you're looking at ancient sources or whatever, or any source, how do you determine its truthfulness? It's the facts of it. How much is what they're saying is correct? There's a whole bit of, I did a video on this, on historical criticism and all that, the basics of the historical method, where I talk about that. And it's talked about in college, but I don't think they do it that much in high school. And yes, I think, Bjorn, I think so. I think that would help.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fantastic idea and something which I think should be done more, especially because high school, at least in the United States, is something which is mandatory, at least for most of the career. You can drop out, I think, at like 16 or something. But college is something which, like it or not, is behind a paywall. If you are not wealthy enough to afford to go to college, you cannot go to college. Like, you can find like ways of scholarships and stuff, but it's incredibly difficult. So by allowing for education to not be something which you have to have a prerequisite of wealth in order to attain is a human right, in my opinion. Like, people should be graduating college, or at least finishing their college, or graduating high school, or finishing their high school career with the ability to go do critical thinking skills. Because you don't need to go to college to be smart. That anyone who tells you that is just full of it. But you have to learn how to think. That is something which they really stress in college and is incredible, but it should be done in high school as well. As great as it is to learn all your, general theories and science stuff and English and all these like building blocks that you need in your life, they should be doing more effort to teach you how to think in high school, because it's the only one that they are guaranteed to have you to teach you in, and that you're old enough to be able to understand, Yeah.
And it's a shame too, because I've seen in recent times more and more, I don't want to, I'm not trying to get political here, but I'm just saying there are people on the right who say, oh, colleges are bastions of liberal groupthink, and they're trying to indoctrinate our children, so don't get educated there. Homeschooling's great. Do homeschool. And it concerns me that people aren't getting an education as a result of that.
Yeah, no, it's frightening. It really is. I mean, it jeopardizes people. It puts them in, line where facts don't matter. And as we've seen recently, and, this isn't political, this is factual, that, doubting scientists has lost us lives. We passed more than 1 million deaths of COVID in the United States because people didn't trust science. It's frightening. And so honestly, that's one of the things which really motivated me to start this. Is a threat to any trust in science is a threat to all trust in science. It is really easy to go from, I can do my own research when it comes to ancient aliens to I can do my own research and vaccines give you autism. I read a paper on it once, and they don't look into the fact that the guy who wrote that got his medical license revoked, and he wrote multiple papers saying that he was wrong. They just see the one paper, or they see a Facebook post about it, and it's done. So it's something that needs to be tackled from every angle, because it is genuinely dangerous.
I had a commenter recently tell me, well, you can't trust historians because the establishment, the history establishment. And the reason he gave was, well, look at how they lied about, they said there was climate change and there isn't. And they lied about the vaccines and said they were safe and they weren't. And I'm like, you're not helping yourself here.
That's one that I have yet to have the stomach to really go into. So I definitely, my whole thing here is archaeology. But if I am to give a little bit of background on my education, I wanted to major in archaeology, but I had some advisors in high school who I kind of picked up, like, oh, you can't really go anywhere with an archaeology degree. So I was like, okay, sure, I won't do archaeology. So my major is actually in environmental science. I went to Evoke Tech High School before college. So I have 8 years of environmental science training, which is really nice. And I find it very applicable in the archaeology field. I tried to switch majors in college, but I could only do it as a minor because my university didn't offer it as a major. Another problem with lack of education on that. So I want to be able to pursue it later. But, my whole point is hearing these, how often these conspiracy theorists tie in with, like climate change denial stuff and, anti-COVID stuff. There was something I saw recently, or I did an interview recently with someone who's writing his master's thesis. And one of the things he found was that people who believe in one conspiracy are far more likely to believe in like many conspiracies than there is for someone to believe in just one. So like, if you are a conspiracy theorist, you will have a roster that you believe in. There's not many people who are just like, yeah, I think this one conspiracy, which I think is a great indicator of how much damage it does.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said earlier on, there are people who just are against the establishment, period.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever they say, they're just not going to believe it,
Yeah.
And there's not much you can do about it because if they already have that ideology, it's kind of hard to combat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's frightening because a lot of it just boils down to the way that people feel,
Mm-hmm.
like I talked about a girl recently on TikTok who it was a flat earth video. And one of the things she said in her video, it was like my third episode on her, and she'd responded to me and I was responding to her response, and I was like halfway through filming it, and I got to a point in the video where she says, terms like the speed of light mean nothing, and they were made up to confuse you and make you think that you are too stupid to understand so that they can get away with whatever they want. And I was like taken aback because I was like, that totally changed the way that I was viewing her content. I was like, you had a really bad experience in school. Like, how heartbreaking is that you had a class that made you feel stupid, and now it's carrying on to your later life, and you can't trust things that are right in front of you, and you're going on to preach this stuff. She had another video that was, I think, literally entitled "Education is Indoctrination," and I'm like, how damaging is that? Like, that you just didn't feel supported in that environment. Oh, hey, super chat.
From Stacy. So you are saying the Antikythera mechanism wasn't from aliens? Haha. How is the discovery of alt branches of human species skewing the out of Africa theory, i.e. Denisovin and others? This is an area I don't know a lot about, Stacy. It's earlier than my period, but
yeah. As of right now, I am actually starting a series on human origins. I just finished scripting the very first episode, or I'm working on scripting the very first episode, which is on Sahelanthropus chadensis, which is so far like our oldest common ancestor with apes and the ape line. And I have not, at least in the research that I've been doing, found too many ways that it's changed the out of Africa theory. It definitely like alters like maybe like the location exactly. Right now, it is kind of believed that humans originally diverged from the ape line somewhere in like Central Africa around Chad, or I guess it'd be Central North Africa. And from there, I don't really, honestly, I'm not really sure about the Denisovans, because the Denisovans are still something which is being researched a whole lot. And I'd be curious when I get to that point in the video to see how it's really changed the way we're thinking about it. Because right now, as far as I know, we still only have one actual complete skull, and the rest is like 9 assemblages from like Tibet and stuff.
All right. Well, we're running out of time. So Milo, I want to thank you for coming on the channel. And shout out your channel. Let people know where they can find you. I think they already know. They just look for Miniminuteman. But...
Well, I mean, thank you very much for having me on here. This was really, really cool. It was great talking to you. Great seeing. I've been kind of watching your little scroll bar going on in the
Oh,
corner
yeah.
here. I've been, seeing what everyone's been saying and stuff. And so it's fantastic to be here. It's great to just see a group of people who are so engaged with your content and whatnot. And yeah, I'm Miniminuteman. My name is Milo. You can call me
Go over
Milo.
there and subscribe,
Yeah,
everybody.
you can go check me out. I'm on TikTok. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. I'm on all that fun stuff. But if
Yeah,
you guys are interested in more like pseudo-archaeology things, I try and do some that are a little bit more like edutainment. I try and make them a little bit funny and stuff like that. But I have some of that over on my channel, and I have a new video coming out hopefully this Sunday. So if not, it'll be like Monday or Tuesday or something like that. But I mean, thank you very much for having me on. I hope that we could be able to collaborate on something in the future. I would love to continue
sure.
working with you, and who knows, maybe we'll get Irving Finkel on here at some point.
No, that'd be great. Yes, and thank
I
you
can
all for
show
your
him my
super
game
stickers
of
and
Ur.
super chats. And for all your support, everybody. Appreciate it very much. Go tell people how fun it is to come to a World of Antiquity live stream, and go subscribe to Milo. Thank you all, and I guess we'll see you later.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Have a good one, man.
Bye bye, everybody.
Bye bye.